So the first question, what was the concept of reality?
Okay, now listen. There's a universe that we see, right? And that's why your question is so important because it actually covers the universe right in the first half second, right? Now you got all that 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 world, the flavor of the world coming into your eyes, your ears, your nose, you touch it, you feel everything, and that's called the five senses, right? And you can see all of that. And then there's this sixth thing that you actually see, and that is your own vision of imagination, like what it could be, like what would be Andromeda, what would be life there, right?
Hmm.
Have you ever thought about Andromeda? Okay,
Yeah.
what do you think about Andromeda? Tell me.
Sometimes, since no one's ever been there, I just like wonder,
How do you
like,
know no one's ever been there? See, now there you go. How do you know no one's ever been there? Because you think we're the only people we're only living things in the universe, right?
okay, I mean, like, no one has ever been there and come back to Earth or ever come to Earth from there,
Yeah,
or
but
that
but
we know.
but the fact that most people think that we are the center of the universe, we actually think that this whole universe is just lonely, deserted deserts and jungles and stones and you know lava and whatnot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but the Quran doesn't say that. Quran says, there's creatures all over the universe.
Mm.
Okay, and
Mm.
not just in this heaven, but other heavens too.
Okay.
And it actually speaks, in abundance of what is the concept of life. The fact that there is a concept of life in other heavens, the fact that it uses the word other heavens, it itself actually opens the horizon of a bigger concept of reality. Right now, we cannot see that. That's why we need to actually expand our horizon and widen our gaze to absorb most of what we can actually get from the Quran and the prophecy. So he went to the journey of the seven heavens.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it becomes the most important journey because it actually enhances, actually changes. It changes the very concept of reality because that's why people were actually objecting to, oh, how can that even be? Let alone what he saw. They were actually challenging the very concept of this very journey.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So this is a very, very big problem. If you do not have a well-grounded concept of reality, and the groundedness of it would be the the surprise it's gonna give you. It can give you this whole reality of unveiling itself in front of you
Mm-hmm.
through different accidents or by design experiments or pondering too much into the Quran and Hadith to find out that yeah, there could be, and there's a clear sign or there's a clear statement from the creator of the universe, or even a lowly scientist. You know what I'm saying? Anybody can bump into anything, and then you like the dark matter. We didn't know it existed, right? Before Newton, people didn't know what space was. Newton actually said, you know what? There's nothing. The nothingness is the space called
Okay.
vacuum. Einstein rejected it. It says not. It's not a vacuum. There's definitely something there. He called it space time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now we know what neutrinos are, and the I mean, there's just so much that we can actually go into, and we can actually theorize, hypothesize, imagine.
Mm-hmm.
We can now imagine, and we have to connect all of that with our daily life and the way we actually think about little or big things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so we cannot be just limited to the fact that, oh, you know what, since daddy told me this, that's how it is. No, well, daddy was living his own life. New things can happen any given second. He was reading his own books. New things can happen, or he could have just not had enough time to go through all of those things that actually matter to what your life is gonna, bring in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
You get that? So
Yeah.
don't be confined to what I have to say. The very fact of reality is the very need of openness that you guys are gonna have. That I'm gonna be open to everything that's gonna come my way. And I'm going to reject it or accept it based on whatever the merit of that situation is. But I'm not going to actually be a rejecter of the very notion that there's new things that this universe is going to unveil. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the Amr of Allah. Amr of Allah means the order of Allah. That,
Mm.
things are going to keep, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses the future tense. The future tense means, He says, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you. You will see one day. You will see. That means He uses those tenses by design. There are no flukes. When it comes down to the Quran or God Almighty. So when he says we are going to show you signs, it means man is going to achieve some sort of a vision, and he's going to see so much. For example, in the Quran, Allah Ta'ala says, on that day, Iza. He says Iza. Iza means when, right? You know what Iza means. So when the sky is going to become doorways, doors are going to start opening in the sky. Now, can you imagine the same Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's book? The same book is saying, look up in the sky. Do you see any holes? You know what I'm saying? The same book is saying the sky is going to become doorways.
Like portals?
Yeah, literally.
Oh,
literally.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I actually have a theory, of course, that the very end of time is going to be all about interplanetary, intergalactic, interheavenly movement could also be possible. And things from here and there are going to be traveling like freely.
Mm-hmm.
And even if not freely, but the access is going to be there. Okay, even if it's going to be one way or it's going to have a free access.
Mm-hmm.
But since Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses the future tense, literally means that it is as possible. It's definitely going to happen, but it's as possible as tomorrow. It can happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to give you a very abstract version. I'm not going to go through different people's opinions about what reality is, or how different philosophers think about it, of how different people have actually theorized and modeled the concept of reality, because you're too young for that right now, and you can hear their theories later on because you're just 12 right now. But this is the time when you're going to actually start the whole process. First and foremost, get the general theory that no, reality is what the Quran is going to tell us, and Quran opens the very pedestal of reality by saying, you know what, you do not know what you see. You see only what your eyes can actually adhere to, but there's so much more. There is so much more. For example, interdimensions. Eyes cannot see that, right? How does the Quran say that? The Quran says that these jinns see you from places you cannot see. Literally dimensions, right? They're looking at you from a different dimension. We cannot see them because our dimension does not have that access to open that kind of a visibility. Their dimension has that access, so that they can see us, we cannot see them. So the dimensions are right there. So the concept of reality has to be grounded from the Quran, in the Quran, about the Quran.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so tomorrow I'm just going to finish it up by this last note, that tomorrow you're going to find a lot of books. In your time, you're going to be my age, you're going to find a lot of books which are so pro-science that they will be literally ridiculing that, how, you got a 2,000-year-old book, that's what you're trying to tell us. You know what, my 2,000-year-old book actually spoke about interdimensions when your new advanced and modern technology didn't even conceptualize. Imagine this. Okay, that's how big of a door opener this Quran is. It opens the brains, literally splits it up into different atoms, and every atom is facing a different direction. That's the scope of what my book can do to me, because it actually starts with astrophysics. It starts with space, literally space. It comes from the universe down to Earth, rather than connecting the little pieces of the planet and then try and make us solve a puzzle of the universe. It doesn't happen like this. Go on.
Okay, this one's a bit of a stretch, but what proof of there is Islam being like the true religion in other books, like the Bible, or in like?
Well, yeah. Okay. If there was a literal proof which was as visible as the sun, then there wouldn't have been any other religion. Well, at least not that religion in which that proof of Islam would be, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that means there's no literary proof, even though there is literal proof that we can actually put together. But let's just say Torah, right? The book of the Jews.
Yeah.
Start from there. You're not going to find any lack of coherence from their book and the Quran.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, Jews can actually follow the Quran and still be Jews.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because there's no commandment that Islam is actually coming up with which is against the Torah. And in the Quran, Allah Ta'ala, Subhanahu wa Ta'ala says in Surah Maida that, tell them to go back to their own book if they have a problem, and it will be okay.
Yeah.
Because your book, the original book, I have the same commandments. God doesn't change his commandments, right?
Yeah.
So, but in the Bible, the current Bible, that Bible has no book of Jesus. We do not know what Isa alayhi salam was saying. We have the book of Paul, the book of Matthew, book of Mark, book of Luke, book of John, but there is no book of Jesus. There are 27 books, 14 of them are written by Paul. That guy never even met Jesus. Okay, so you cannot possibly rely on the current version of the Bible and try and find Islam there. However, as a Muslim, we do not look for proofs of Islam in other religions or books. Okay, we look for the signs of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala in the universe and in our own selves. Okay, we do not need proofs of how true we are or how wrong they are. If we can find Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala through our book, which we can, and we will keep on doing, then this debate of which religion is right or which religion is wrong is too petty. We need to find out how close we can be to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala and how we can live up to the book of Quran. Okay, these religious debates are insignificant compared to the big purpose of a Muslim.
Another one. It's like
actually, let me continue on that. Let me just build up a little bit so that I could open your horizon. Even if there is a sign or a clue that actually leads you towards Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala's signs and like space sciences inside the Torah or some version of the Bible, some verse of the Bible, sorry, that's also a useful clue for us, because our purpose is to get closer to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. We know what the Quran is. Okay, we don't throw to Quran, keep throwing Quran on the table just to discuss and debate it. That's not our job here. Okay, our job is to find Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala's closeness. And if Jews are telling you that what your religion is wrong, tell them what, it's irrelevant of whose religion is right, but the purpose is to find Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala and go close to him. So if you can find him through Torah, I don't really want to bother you, but if you try to find it through Quran, you're going to find 10 million more times the ease. Okay.
There's another question, but I don't really know how to phrase it, but it's like about time travel, basically. Like, if time travel is possible, then like how do you do it? And like, if someone has time traveled by using the Quran, then how come nobody how come he's never told anybody or showed anybody?
But why would you assume that somebody is time traveled using the Quran?
Oh, you said that you can time travel with Surah Al-Kahf or something like that.
Well, first of all, no. What I mean to say, whenever I say time travel itself is a concept. Okay, in the Quran, people have traveled, but they didn't read the Quran to travel through time. When the story of Ashab Kahf happens, okay, what I am theorizing is just my theory could be wrong. Okay, it could be totally wrong. You have to understand that. The point of a theorist is to actually present an option. The fact that the Prophet ﷺ told us to go to the mountains, Prophet ﷺ told us that Surah Kahf is going to be your key to in the times of Dajjal, it is going to help you. It's going to help you, protect you from Dajjal. Now, one starts to think that how can a surah in the Quran help me? Literally, should I recite it in front of him? Is he going to start melting? Should I keep it in my heart, memorize it, and he won't be able to see me? You know what I'm saying? Or what? Literally, or what? You know what I'm saying? So what I'm actually, and when you read the Surah Kahf, and of course you know the Surah Kahf by heart, you can find out that there's all of Surah Kahf is about these sort of concepts, and very interestingly put. The choice of words is amazing. The way Prophet ﷺ, now you have to keep in parallel reminding yourself of the hadith in the time of Dajjal, and then keep reciting Surah Kahf, and you'll find out that he's talking about going to the mountains. Where did the Ashab Kahf go? Mountains, right? The Prophet says that when in the time of Dajjal or the end of time, in the end of times, if you want to save yourselves, go to the mountains. Okay, be oblivious to the bigger system. Try and be in the hiding. Run away. What was Ashab Kahf doing? Running away. Where did they go? They went to the mountains. What happened to the mountain? They found a cave. Okay. So what did Zulkarnain do? He went to the he went on a journey where there is a very, very big possibility, because of the earlier scholars, they've actually theorized themselves that it's not at all impossible that Zulkarnain went through this dimension to another dimension. Now, there's so many clues. I'm not going to go in that detail, but in this planet, if you want to make a wall, you don't start with iron and copper, right? You start with bricks and clay. You know what I'm saying? So there's a totally different wall that is being made by Zulkarnain. So it can very well be interdimensional, but the word sababa in itself holds the meaning, and it's not just in the Quran; it's in the Bible as well. Okay, it's in the Quran 9 times the word comes in, and it means going up in the heavens. So up in the heavens, going to the mountains, caves, people traveling through time. In Ashab Kahf, of course, they did. And so many other instances of Musa alayhi salam and Sayyid alayhi salam. You can actually find out that there's a little too much going on there. Now, I'm not, since we've covered that in a lot of detail in in our videos. I don't want to go in that kind of detail, but for your mind and people who are going to listen to this video, you better understand that it's I'm not saying it is exactly how it is, but it's not impossible to start thinking. I'm not going to say it's possible or probable, but it definitely is not impossible to draw this kind of a conclusion. And maybe it is how it is. But anything else other than the kind of theory I'm making, there's no other explanation you're going to find out as to what Surah Kahf is going to do, or what are we supposed to do with Surah Kahf at the time of the child. Okay. So your original question is about time travel. So we know about Dajjal, which is going to come in the end of times, right? But if Dajjal is going to come in the end of time, how did the Sahabi, the companion of the Prophet ﷺ, meet Dajjal? 1400 years ago. Yeah. So somebody's traveling through a dimension or a time, right? Yeah. So that's one key. And Ashab Kahf wake up 300 years or 300 some years later, and everything else. Yeah, well, we don't know for sure, right? So Quran Pak says, Allah says, nobody knows for sure. So, well, it's more than 200, right? So they didn't grow up, they didn't grow old. They just thought that they only slept for half a day. In the very verse, they actually talk to each other, right?
Yeah.
What's the verse? Do you remember the verse?
I think it was 25 or no 24.
No, it's in the first in the first ruku. So the question is, it's not at all well, it is a time travel. Literally, they traveled to time, right? I mean, how did they travel? We don't know, but they did, because they didn't grow up. Everything else passed. So it's not that kind of a time travel that we'll just go into a machine, press some buttons, and travel through time and then come back. They didn't. It didn't happen like that. What did happen is that two things which were very weird. That's what I'm talking about. They're in Surah Kahf. One, they enter into a cave. Two, something strikes their ears. Okay. 3, angels keep shifting them while they're asleep. 4, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, if you had looked at them, you would have been scared so much that you would have run. That's the kind of condition they were inside the cave. So it could be, inside a totally different, it's stuck inside between 2 dimensions. Okay. So we do not know that. So the fact that, there's so many literal signs and virtual signs of time travel, that you have to actually put that on the table, at least for discussion. Yeah.
Arsul, do you want to ask a question?
Yeah. So last time when we were talking, you said something about the 7 heavens. I don't because there's 2 different meanings somebody gave me. I don't remember who. But the first one, you said that this earth counts as one, right?
So what now?
Does the earth we're living on, does that count as one heaven?
Yeah, that's the first heaven.
So what are the other ones?
Awesome. Awesome question. Okay. In the Quran, Allah says, لَقَدْ زَيَّنَ السَّمَاءَ الدُّنْيَا. That means the heaven, the sky that we look at from this planet, that is the first heaven. And in another surah, this is Surah Safat, and then Surah Mulk, and then in the Surah Anbiya, Allah Ta'ala says, in the day of judgment, we are only going to wrap up the scroll, like a scroll, the first heaven. Okay, the first heaven. First heaven. So, which is the first heaven? The Quran itself says the first heaven is the one that you can see stars lighting up in. Okay. Muzayyan as-sama' ad-dunya. Muzayyan means there's some adornments. You can see some stars as a decor of this heaven. So we all know now that that cosmic microwave background of the first Big Bang. Now we can see that becomes a little dome, not a little, but about 15 billion years worth of time travel. Light travel is this little sphere. That's the first. That's as far as we can see. Okay, so that would be, if we can see that through any instrument, then now we can actually literally see that this is the first heaven, right? Now we only know that there's a theory about the black hole, and since the black hole opens up the possibility of not knowing what could be on the other side of whatever that thing is, which we call black hole, the fact that it opens up the very concept that there could be other things other than black holes that can actually open the doorways from this heaven to the other heaven, right? Now, does the Quran speak about this? Literally, in these very words. In Surah Ma'arij, it says, there are pathways. Quran Pak, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying there are pathways through which angels travel from wherever we give them the commandments to you, us human beings. And literally, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does the math for us, maths, that a day for them equals to 50,000 of your years. That's how fast they travel, through these pathways. So, to end the story of Miraj of the Prophet ﷺ literally describes to us of what kind of heavens, who lives there, amongst the prophets. And since the fact that he saw all of that, literally, and he came and told us, literally means that there are literal heavens, like literal universes. You know what I'm saying? He went through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7th. So that's how we know. A little glimpse of every heaven was there in that hadith. So for example, the tree of Sidratul Muntaha. It's such a big tree that I'm not saying this tree. It could be anything, but the Prophet said tree. I'm a literalist, so I'm going to take it like a tree. And it starts from the 6th heaven and goes up to and its roots are in the 6th heaven, and it goes up and opens up its branches and bears its fruit in the 7th heaven. That's how big of a structure that is. What is it? We don't know, but we do know that two things. We do know that all the source of water, well, not all, but at least some significant source of water comes through that and enters into some portal. And I'm just theorizing here. Okay, I know that the Prophet did not give us the actual pathway, but he literally said that the river Nile and actually 4, Gihon Spring, Nile, and Euphrates, and there's another 4th one. I keep forgetting the name. These 4 rivers, the source of these rivers are coming from the root of that structure in the 6th heaven. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about a tiny little speck of a planet in the 1st heaven. The smallest little streams, which you call rivers, are flowing there, and the root is somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? Such a big structure, and then it's actually nourishing everything. Now that is a way. I know you're going to find a lot of people are going to say, "Oh yeah, it's just a symbol. It's a symbol." Prophet has given it a symbol. Nile is not a symbol. Okay, Gihon Spring is not a symbol. The 2 rivers of Iraq are not a symbol. So you can imagine a lot more, what's the word, angles of reality of what things are, and the way we are looking at them, we think that's all it is. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls all of the other, structures we cannot see or we cannot feel or touch is as ghaib. Ghaib, the word ghaib, okay? In Surah Baqarah it says, yu'minuna bil ghaibi, bil ghaib. People who believe in that ghaib, that whole, the actual universe, the reality of all of the bigger universes, and where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's throne is, and where the angels travel from, those portals. Literally, the word portal is called Miraj. And the portals, the plural, is Ma'arij. So Allah Ta'ala is giving us those portals that come from other heavens down to earth or wherever they have to go to carry the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The kind of structures there are, and the kind of functions these structures are fulfilling for the rest of the universe. And then there's so many ahadith, which I'm not even talking about. He talks about the meadows, where different creatures are living in other heavens. And they're birds, and they're big creatures and small creatures. I mean, there are so many. And people, like creatures which can actually think and have a belief system, even those are mentioned in the Quran. That opens the possibility that there could be other life forms, and there literally are, because Quran speaks about it in multiple occasions. Okay, in one part of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Did you think you're the best of all creations? No, you are the best amongst most of it." Literally, it says most of it. Kasiram. Arsal, Quran says, Kasiram mimman khalaqna, which means we created you amongst you're better than most of us. Most of my creations, which means we're not better from all of it. We're better from cows and dogs and sheep and even angels or jinns, but not all of it. That means there are other creatures. And other parts of the Quran says, there's certain creatures in different parts of the universe which can even think. Now, could they be better than us? I don't know which one is, but the possibility is that there are other creatures who are living in other heavens which are better than us. Possibility is. Okay. You get the whole picture?
Yeah, so those other creatures, they believe in Islam as well?
Yeah, well, there's a theory. Good question. There's a theory that they do, and there's a theory that they don't. It's the other theory is that it's irrelevant of what they believe in, as long as, since of course the creator is one, and whoever believes in one creator is a Muslim. La ilaha illallah, right? Now the other part of being Islam is Muhammadur Rasulullah. Ashhadu la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah is the actual first tenet of Islam, that there is no other God but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu is the second part of Islam, right? Now it could be for just human beings, that's the theory, or they expand the theory to a certain extent that there is a certain hadith. Okay, now it's being debated whether this hadith is really from the Prophet ﷺ, or it just kind of got fabricated and there was no such thing and somebody concocted it. But if it was not concocted, then that hadith, you'll be interested to know that it actually speaks about the presence of the same prophets, same person in 7 different heavens. Okay, at the same time, or different times, but since time is relative, so we can't exist at the same time on Earth in different planets, right? Because that would be in different times. So the hadith is that since there's 7 heavens, you can see the 7 different sets of prophets, including Adam alayhi salam to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's a weak narration, so I'm not going to give your brain a certainty about it. However, I think you should be certain that there are other heavens, there are creatures living there, and they better be following half of Islam, if not all of it. Half means La ilaha illallah, right? But they could be following all of Islam. Muhammadur Rasulullah could also apply to them. So now the argument can be made that if we are not the best of the best creation of them all, and some creation is better, then why do they have to believe in Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as the prophet, right? So that's the beauty of the Prophet and the prophets. Even though they are from human lineage and race, they've done so much that they're even better than the creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, other creations. So yeah, go on.
Yeah, so I was gonna ask you, before I ask the question I was gonna ask, I need to ask you, what's the difference from being intergalactic and interdimensional?
Yeah, I think you're gonna grow up to become interested in physics, inshallah. Intergalactic and interdimension would, from a naked eye, would mean that, you know, interdimension would mean that I could travel into a different dimension right now, right here. And intergalactic would mean that I have to go to the closest galaxy called Andromeda, right? Galaxies, right? But through the lens of the Quran, we can actually see that we can do both of the same things at the same time. Science does not really believe that, but a Muslim believes that we can do the same things, two different things, intergalactic and interdimension, by just shifting yourself here and there, because of the way this whole universe is structured. In Surah Mulk, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, these universes we created in parallel to each other. You know what I'm saying? In Surah Mulk, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. So that would mean, and that could mean, that they are parallel universe running around me, which I don't know, and I can just be shifted towards there, whatever technique and I have to use. But I could be in a totally different universe, or I could very well be existing in a totally different universe. All the possibilities are right there. Okay.
So how do you go through different universes?
Well, that's an entirely different story for a different session, but let me give you a lot of hints. Well, not a lot, but some hints. That, for example, let me just give you an example. When we die, we go to the grave, right? In the grave, there's so much happening, and we believe in that. So how can we not see that? People, you're going to find people when you're going to grow up or so, that in Chapai, that people, you'll find Muslims who say, nothing happened in the grave, man. Where is it written in the Quran? Well, it's very well written in the Hadith, and I can show you through that Quran as well. But since you already believe in the life of the grave, so let's just not ponder into why and how people object to that concept. So the fact that if you dig up a grave, and people do dig up graves, right? Every year, they dig up old graves, and they level the whole graveyard so that new people can be buried there. So we don't see those kind of things happening in the grave. So that would mean that it exists right there, right here. And one way of doing it is, one way of going through interdimension is just by dying, right? But living creatures have done that by giving an example of Zulkarnain. He literally talks about meeting, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about him meeting different creatures who had different problems, which are not from this planet. For example, one of them said, we cannot be protected from the sun. Do something that we can be protected from the sun. Okay, so how can a person from this dimension or planet not be protected from the sun? And what can he possibly do? And the story actually goes on in Surah Kahf, and so on. And there are other occasions where people have traveled through dimensions just to, for example, Musa and Khidr, they travel through a dimension, following a fish that actually goes, a dead fish that comes to life, goes into a certain part of the planet inside the water and opens up a little bit of a hole. And Musa and his slave, alayhi salam, go through that hole and go to meet a different person. Why is it a dimension? Because they went through a hole in the water, and they live a proper life there with different people. How can you go through it? It's not like a waterfall, okay? It's not a waterfall that the fish went through. It's a dead fish that comes to life and just goes into water. Now that means, that means many things. So I hope you can actually imagine all of this while I'm talking, and a lot of pictures are being painted inside your mind about, all of these concepts. When we're going to do physical Quran together of these very verses, we're going to open this subject in detail.
Mm-hmm. Father,
yeah.
Okay. I have like one more question because the laptop's running out of battery, and when I put it on charge, it starts cutting a lot. Okay. So this question is about more of the past. So I know that Umar Razillah anhu was on his way to kill the Prophet when he got word that his sister had converted to Islam. But the Prophet Muhammad
Okay.
sallallahu alaihi wasallam had made a dua that either Umar Razillah anhu or Abu Jahl.
No. You're going by, too far from the microphone. I need the question very clearly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam made a dua that either Umar Razillah anhu or Abu Jahl would convert to Islam. So what if Hazrat Umar Razillah anhu never got that news and Abu Jahl converted to Islam? How would that happen? Or like, is that like unknown? But
You want me to
anyway.
extrapolate the scenario of if that had happened?
Yeah, if he hadn't gotten that news.
Well, let's just assume that he did. Then he would have gotten to totally different. Okay, let me just tell you the story of Umar al-Khattab. Umar al-Khattab was already softened by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This news of his sister was just a tip of the iceberg. Otherwise, the whole process, he was already a Muslim from within, just waiting for this sort of an excuse, which was given through his sister. Umar al-Khattab, the story himself, he himself narrates that he was a drunkard. He used to drink a lot in the times of Jahiliyyah when he was not a Muslim. He was like really drunk all the time, right?
Yeah, I know.
He said, well, let me just, because you know that people don't know that. Let me just build it up so that you would know how the things actually happen and how they actually. Because see, that's the original question that you have. What is the concept of reality? We see something else, and the whole scenario is being plotted and weaved into its own existence through totally different mechanisms and processes. And we just see that little output or end last node, right? So he says one day the pub was closed and I had no choice but not to drink. So I was completely sober. He was not drunk, so he was sober. See, now this is the thing people miss out on this story. And he was in all of his senses. By the way, through his life, we know that this man's IQ was close to 200 or something. Okay, this man was like the smartest man. He could do some serious algorithms. So much so that one time the Prophet said to Umar al-Khattab, Umar, watch out for what you say, man, because whenever you say something, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals a verse for it. You're literally, forecasting the Quran here. So, this man had a serious IQ, radiallahu anhu. So he, the smart man, is like, okay, what should I do? I can't drink now. So all of a sudden, listen to this now. This is the turning point. He says, why don't I just go pray, man? I'll just go pray to the Kaaba.
Yeah.
I know you know that. Listen, Shafi, you're interjecting me because you do not know the thing I'm going to tell you right now. Okay, just be patient. The fact that he thought of going praying was not in his hand. That's the thing that you better understand. Okay. Now, how do you think that works? Of course, for the audience, I'm going to tell the story because it is going to be on the air. But the fact that people think, oh, you know what, he went to the Kaaba and he saw the Prophet and so on and so forth. No. Why did he think of the Kaaba, man? I mean, it's not like he does that every day.
Yeah, it was like.
So that means that's where the prayer is being answered. Understand this concept. Okay, that is the power of the whole, system working for the Prophet for the fulfillment of his prayer. So he goes to the Kaaba, he hides behind the cloth of the Kaaba, and then he's like, okay, for this man, I'm going to kill this man because only Prophet is praying there. And then imagine the revelation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is putting in the heart of the Prophet. And then, we know the story from here on. So the question is, was that physics? Was that chemistry? Was that biology? How did that happen? How did his heart turn towards the Kaaba? That's the question of not biology, physics, or chemistry. That means it's not from the very element, prism of reality that we think reality is. Something else is going on. And that mechanism, that phenomena, happens to us every single day in every single man's or woman's life. We just don't put enough heat into it to understand that something else is actually dictating a lot of things. And you too got young to understand that, but I'm telling you, most of your life is being lived by those phenomena, mechanisms. You're just living out the last moves. The last moves. Things have already happened. You know what I'm saying? So I hope you know what I'm trying to actually get you at.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Okay. The laptop battery is at like 20%.
Oh yeah, it's good enough. You can throw in the last question. Arsal, anything?
Yeah, so I actually forgot the question that I was going to follow up with the intergalactic, interdimensional thing. I think it had something to do with so the seven heavens. They are dimensions or like different galaxies.
Well, no. Oh, awesome question. It cannot just be dimensions, because the Prophet actually talks about one heaven being on top of the other, right? And he talks about the actual, well, in his journey, he actually talks, he goes up, literally goes up and knocks on the door. If all of these little details were not there in that, we could have been confused as to whether, this heaven or that heaven, whether if I change dimension or not, right? But those are on top of each other, and they have a totally different mechanism going on. And maybe, laws of physics don't even apply. Maybe they do. I don't know. Could be anything. But the point is, the Prophet ﷺ went and knocked on the door. Jibreel alayhi salam knocked on the door of the next heaven. It's like, and then there's this dialogue of who is there, and you know that. So what I'm saying is, it's not dimension, but dimension could be a doorway to going to different parts of your own heaven, or even other heavens. But other heavens are definitely, definitely, as far as I could actually tell from the hadith and the Quran, that they're on top of each other, and they're way big and way vast. Obviously, because sphere within a sphere within a sphere within a sphere. Well, I'm doing it wrong. Sphere within a sphere within a sphere would make the innermost sphere the smallest one, right? The smallest one, because it's a sphere within a sphere, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So that would mean that we are the tiniest little heaven, and on top of that, and that's where the other piece gets connected. Okay, I'm getting a lot of noise. Oh, that's not helping.
I muted her.
That's not helping. Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. I muted her.
Oh, okay. So these that I've lost my chain of thought. Yeah, these that the guy is going to be scoring the least amount of points to enter heaven is going to get 13 times the planet Earth. That literally means that the real heaven and hell would be in totally different heaven, in a way bigger heaven, right? And in the Quran, Allah says, "Yawma tabaddalu al-ardu ghayru al-ard," which means we're going to change this terrain with a totally different terrain. Now, could be that since he himself says that we're going to roll up the first heaven, and there's going to be a totally different earth, which means earth means clay, right? Earth does not mean earth. Dunya means earth. Okay, so earth means different planet. So the Quran and Hadith combine together to show us a lot more of a picture, and and of course in the Quran Allah says, for the people of hell, the doors of the heavens will not open, and people of heaven, the doors of these heavens are going to open, right? So that means that they're up there somewhere. And another hadith, Prophet says that the people of lower ranks inside heaven are going to look at the people of higher ranks as if we are looking at, just as though we're looking, just like we're looking up in the sky to the stars. So that means, it could mean, wallahu alam, that the last heaven would be where the actual heaven and hell is going to happen, or just heaven is going to happen and hell could be happening somewhere else. So the whole picture gets a lot more resolution. Okay, you can see it more clearly.
Okay. So you
okay.
There?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Should I make you the host now?
No, I think you should stop and save the recording now, because I have a session at 4 o'clock.
Okay.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum.